Okay, so we're going to go over article number 1 of System Concepts. System Concepts, article number 1, we are the creator. One of the hardest but most important concepts that everything in Kabbalah circulates to is the idea that we are all actually the creator. The Kabbalists do not expose this in clear words for fear of people's response. We are told that we are the will to receive, but this is not entirely true. We do have a will to receive, but it is not our essence. In fact, we cannot attain our essence, but rather only actions that extend from it. Here's a quote. Furthermore, you have no perception or attainment whatsoever even of your own essence. Everything you know about your own essence is nothing more than a series of actions extending from your essence, from the essence of the wisdom of Kabbalah by Bala Sulam. There is only one essence in the entire reality, and that is the Creator's essence. We only attain what we perceive from it, known as, from your actions, we know you. The thing is that the Creator's essence is our essence. This is very important, since it defines our route and our goal, to reach consciousness of our true absolute internal power. It is known that there is no perception whatsoever in his Atzmut, essence, and everything that we do not attain, and that has no name and appellation, how can we define it by a name? Any name implies attainment. It indicates that we have attained that name. Thus, it is certain that there is no name and appellation whatsoever in his Atzmut, essence. Instead, all the names and appellations are but in his Or, light, from Inner Reflection, Talmud Esesfriot, Part 1. The importance of this concept is to internalize the Creator within us, not to externalize him. We have a tendency to think of the Creator as some outside deity, instead of a force and power that drives our subconsciousness, thoughts, emotions, and actions. We are not nullifying ourselves to somebody else, but rather to a higher state of awareness within ourselves. The initial resistance of the ego is because our understanding of the system concepts are incorrect. Correcting our system concepts is the first step to actually start advancing quickly without resistance from our ego. The idea is not to think that we are the Creator and therefore relax and rest, but rather to understand that we don't feel that we are the Creator and must work towards feeling this state. So I'm just going to go by the list I have in the chat. Starting with Rick. Why is it important to know that our essence is the same as the Creator?
It's important to understand that because then you have a realization, a goal to work towards, to bring that awareness about into focus.
Rono?
Well, it allows us to, sharpen our aim instead of focusing on the illusion of the corporeal, what we can see and feel with our senses. We can concentrate on something that's actually real, even though it's far away from attainment. But still, if we have a very clear goal, then we have more chance to attain it very quickly than, just wandering around and going at random.
Robin?
I think it's hugely, it's like you said, the basis of everything. If you know that, then you start to see the Creator in everything, and you start feeling a position within the whole circulating system. And you know your root is in the Creator. It's just it grounds a perception where it should be, I think.
Jeffrey?
Okay. Yeah, I was agreeing with Rono is that it does sharpen our attention, on the true goal. And anything else would be like a spurious signal that we'd be responding to, you know what I mean? We got to remain focused at the essence is within us and not external. Okay.
Fine. Laura?
then you understand what your purpose is to reveal the creator within you, and you come on to the goal and you're focused on it.
Maria.
It allows us to realize our point compared to where we want to go, and to actually realize that through my current perception, I really don't feel that yet. So it provides me that contradiction in order for me to not stay where I'm at, but actually keep on advancing towards that goal.
Peter.
Yes, well, if knowing that I have the same essence as the creator tells me that it's possible for me to do this work and to actually attain that state where I become one with the creator. When that'll happen, I don't know, but it's about the attainment. I can't define what the essence of the creator is, and according to this, according to what you wrote, I can't even define what my essence is. It's just a matter of action. So I have to know that if I'm just a series of actions, and that's from my essence, then that means that my actions are the same as the creator, or I would think they were. Whether they're good or bad actions, that's where they're emanating from. And knowing that it's beyond believing. It's actually at some point it's becoming attainment.
Nahama.
When I first heard this, I was really shaken. But then as my perception started to change, the goal became clearer and the lessons became easier, because the goal was defined and it grants us, and the goal is and the purpose is to reveal the creator. Keeping that in mind really helps with the studies.
Aylin.
Yeah, adding on to that, if I just thought I was a beast with an evil inclination, I'd have to give up. But knowing that there is an essence in me, it helps us to move forward.
It's important to know because I'm not having a conversation with somebody else. It's not like there's me, there's creator, and there's some kind of conversation between them of like I have to make him happy, but I have to take my own self into consideration, and there's sort of this give and take model. Rather, the conversation is with myself. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to align myself, because the whole reason we came to Kabbalah is because we lack power of our situations, and we thought that Kabbalah could give us the mechanism, the method to set ourselves straight. So the minute you have the goal of self, and then you're using the environment to see how yourself comes into fruition, how you're expressed into this world, then you constantly have a conversation with yourself through the environment. So that you start with yourself, you end with yourself, and the environment becomes this mediating between yourself and yourself. I'll put the second question in. Question number 2. Why do we resist this concept naturally? Rick.
Because we feel that the creator is something outside of us instead of inside of us. We haven't realized it to the point of where we've internalized and accepted the fact that when we get to equivalence of form, where we become the creator, we're not accepting that yet. We're looking for a way out so that we don't have to be responsible.
Robin.
Well, we're taught, all the religions teach that it's just not true. They don't even consider that as blasphemous almost, but That's one aspect. And like Rick says, it's hard. I mean, people don't feel powerful. They don't feel in control. They feel that life's problems hit them and everything, and they don't have any control over it. So they turn to an outside creator to plead for things to be fixed in their life, so things go well, or they'll be helped in the ways that life has not helped them. So it's a natural interaction, I think, with the environment to think that way.
Rono.
And also, when I look in the mirror, it's what I see doesn't look like the creator at all. You know, I have to rely on, those senses, and I've been on to 40 plus years through them, and I don't see the creator anywhere nearby. So we born with those senses, and those are the things that we have, physical grasp on, and so it's extremely difficult to unlearn that and start to learn a new way of thinking. Anyway, the thing is that our ego has to, is stuck in the self-preservation mode, and when you stop, entertaining those very, very high concept, and it's kind of like seeing its own death, then it's going to push you in the other direction.
Jeffrey.
Yes, it's because it's so opposite of our natural state, what we're born into, this will to receive. And like Rona was saying, it's that fight for survival, fight or flight. And so this really takes a lot of internal work to overcome our natural inclinations, to wrap our minds around this, so to speak. It takes a whole lot of effort. Thank you.
Laura.
Well, everything has been a process and a preparation for us throughout the aeons to get us to this place where we can accept that we are the creator. And so I think it's been a natural progression of us not being prepared and ready for that. And that's the natural protection of how the system has set it up and designed it.
Peter.
Oops. Wait, oh, there it is. Shame. I think shame is what would affect me. In fact, I think there's a few things at work here. One is our ego, and my ego, and then society. What society doesn't want you to have any power. And then the creator himself, if the creator just let us know that we were the essence of the creator, well, then there'd be no reason for our existence. And then we'd have to ask ourselves, well, there's no reason for our existence. Would there even be a creator if we are the essence of the creator? So that gets into another area. But I think that shame is what really keeps us keeps myself from accepting that responsibility. Like I'm not worthy of it, or how would I even define it, or reason it.
Nechama.
We resist because we are so opposite to the Creator. And then there's a response of fear of responsibility and having no power. But realizing that it's a process toward always keeping the goal in mind makes it easier.
Elim.
My reaction is, what were you thinking? That's all I got to say.
Maria.
I think you described a circuit when you say that it starts with you, then the environment, and comes back to you. And Rono described something that you need to push and to go to the other end. And I can just think of the resistance is needed in order for us to go to that place where we first feel the lack of, and then can perceive it. Because if I don't feel the lack of what I'm trying to feel, then how will I know that I am feeling it once I'm feeling it?
I heard a lot about responsibility, and it's very true. The idea of this whole concept is to understand that we are responsible for our lives, and we can't depend on anybody else. We can use others. We need to, use the society, use the group, use friends to help us clean concepts and stuff. But the idea is that the responsibility is on me. So I can never come and blame the society or blame the friends or blame anybody that, oh, I'm not advancing it, or that, oh, I just don't have control. Or the idea is to take that responsibility and put it into ourselves, and then know how to use the environment that we've been given in order to bring that responsibility into fruition, to actually able to not just say, oh, I'm responsible, but to actually have that responsibility, have that power to actually change events around us. Question number 3. How can we help each other internalize this concept deeper within us? Rick.
By coming in, scrutinizing it, and making discernments together, listening to your friends as they speak on it, and mingling your feelings with what they're saying so that it becomes more internalized, and you can take and at the same time, give to them. You have to share and mingle together so that you have basically everybody's objective view, so you can see all around it and get a better feeling for what it is. Thank you.
Robin.
I think, like Rick said, coming to workshops, being in the group, supporting each other by coming, and the right attitude and so forth. Just participating and creating that environment, basically, I think.
Rono.
We have to understand that by participating in the group, as in connecting, I allow the light to flow through, and in that way, guarantees that my friends will be able to attain those degrees. Because I have to keep in mind that their advancement depends on me, absolutely.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, and the importance of the society, group, and friends is that we all have this common goal, which is found out in the general humanity. So it's vital that we participate and interact with each other. You call this cleaning concepts. That's like bullpenning or something they call it. You get together, examine your concepts, clean them up. Thank you.
Laura.
Yeah, the more that I internalize it and make it important, the more I then can give that or provide that importance to others in my group. So if it's important to me, it'll radiate from me to them.
Peter.
I could never say to anybody, even somebody who's on this path, and say, hey, by the way, we are the creator. Somebody said that to me, I wouldn't know where to go with it. That's why I'm, participating this way. But I think that the key is workshop, because if you take an idea like this, a question, the whole idea, and from what I've learned about workshopping, is you always ask a question that has no answer, because you can't reveal anything. You can't get any discernments if you can just answer. What did you have for lunch today? Well, I had, this or that. But you ask a question that has no answer, so you peel away these layers until there's these revelations, and you finally, get to some truth. And then even when you get to that truth, there's further to go. Like, where does that end? So I think the workshop, it would be a way for everyone, to be able to come to a sense of what this is in a reality.
Nechama.
How can we help others? I was observing myself before I knew this, being the creator. It was very easy for me to share and encourage and to try and connect. But the minute I found out that I'm the creator, I could feel more and say less. I have nothing to say because I'm so busy listening that I'm really still in a difficult position, because I still can't share, although I'm in a group, very, very vibrant group. And we all have the same goal, and there I can share, but just in general, I'm very quiet at the moment.
Alan.
How can we help each other internalize every moment, recognizing that piece of you that is the creator and reminding you how much I adore it?
Maria.
I think that all of you just said it, or I'm going to say what I heard you guys say through my perception, but responsibility means that I can no longer complain. I better take it upon myself, whatever I feel is so, for the lack of a better term, if what I hear that you guys say is stupid, that's due to my perception. And I think someone said it's the answers in the workshop, but not the workshop itself, but what I choose to do with the workshop. We are invited to be in Love of Friends and so forth, but fine. It's as if a bubble is coming from you guys. And if I say, oh, the creator is perfect, I just go over the bubble and deny myself the opportunity to interact with it. No. I'm not perceiving this through this person. So what I have to do in the workshop, despite what I'm externally doing, is I'm having a fight inside of me, because that's not what I perceive. And that interaction and responsibility is what we all give each other. Not just to say, I'm going to say that it's all good, because inside me it is definitely not all good initially, but we provide ourselves those opportunities for advancement.
This is definitely the hardest concept we have, and we battle with it the entire way. And that's why it's so important for us to be in an environment where people are constantly expressing this concept. Like, remember, you're not a man. We're all connected to the same root. We're not fighting each other. We're actually, if we empower each other, we grow together. These workshops allow us to hear multiple interpretations of an answer, and by getting that contrast between how people perceive and how they want to answer these questions, it allows us to build a bigger picture of ourselves, and to really start internalizing more and more this concept of, I'm not this body, I'm not this will to receive, I'm actually this creator. And the more I shift my perception to that place, then the more I'm with the adhesion with the creator. I want to show you the diagram. So this is the diagram of article number 1, and you can see how the essence is the only concepts where we have no details about it. And that's why we know there's only one essence, because if there's 2 essences, then you would have some details saying this is one essence and this is another. Because we don't have any details, there can only be one essence. And from that essence, then we have the vessels, and the vessels are the way that power is expressed. It's like having electricity, but having no LEDs or anything turned on to say, oh, electricity is actually running in the house. You need to have some kind of signal, and those signals are the vessels. The vessels allow us to see how the Creator is expressed through us, and then we have reality, is what we see at the end of our five senses, and the idea is to go backwards and shift our perception closer and closer to the essence. And everybody has, this is like each person has their own expression of the Creator through them. And the idea is that the more and more we connect to this essence, this is end of correction. And then when everyone reaches that end of correction, then we can start to move into shifting our perceptions together. So until we reach that end of correction worldwide, I can't experience life from your perception, and you can't experience life from my perception. So we have the direct light coming from the essence all the way to our reality that we see outside of us, even though it's inside of us. And then we have the returning light, which is our desire, aspiration to actually become the Creator. And the more that aspiration comes into fruition, then we are getting closer and closer to the end of correction.
Zakai, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you pronounce your name?
Zakai.
Zakai. Okay, you described something right now. You said the vessel or the stimulus. I'm assuming that that's the emotion that was born out of what I heard the other person say. I don't know, whoever the person is, but it triggered something inside of me, and I'm going to say that it's an emotion. You're saying that this emotion, because you said that later you're gonna perceive the Creator there. Is it because then later that emotion changed when that person spoke again, or how are you then relating that this direct light was now transformed in the lab? How are you gauging that this transformation has now become returning light?
So the idea is, when I'm actually hearing you in the workshop, like now you asked me a question, that is the direct light. So I'm seeing you in front of me, and you're talking, and I'm hearing in my ears, and that's reality. What I do with that is the returning light. So the idea is, if I just relate it back to reality, then I don't have any returning light. The idea of the returning light is I'm bringing it back to my essence. I'm always bringing it back into me. So when I hear all of you answer in the workshop, I'm just absorbing it, and I'm taking it, and it's like I want to take all these discernments within me, and you could say the result of discernments is emotion. It's like when you're eating, you don't say, okay, now I'm going to pick up the knife in my right hand, I'm going to pick up the fork in my left hand, I'm going to swivel my right hand 45 degrees, put it into the meat, take my left hand with the fork, put it into the meat, slice, cut a bit out, put it into my mouth. We don't actually go through that whole process of all those discernments. Rather, those discernments become an emotion, they become second nature, and then we just do it. So we don't have to actually think. It's like once we've internalized the concepts, we don't have to think about it all the time. We're living it. We're living through it. And the idea is to absorb more and more of these discernments, and they become emotion to return to the essence. We want to return to our root. We want to have awareness of the entire system. At the beginning, we're only aware of ourselves, a little body, and then we grow and we have awareness of our family. And then we grow more, we have awareness of our society or group. And then we grow even more, we have aware of our country. And then we grow more, and then we're aware of the world, but in a very general way. And then we're just growing and growing and growing our perception and our awareness to reach that point where we see the whole experience as ours. Instead of what we currently see is that person is having his experience, that person is having that experience, and I'm having my own experience. And the idea is to unify our perception. Just like reality, we all share the same reality. The idea is to share the same perception, but we can't reach that same perception if it's not anchored, and that anchor has to be the essence. So just like reality is anchored to the opposite, we need to anchor back into the essence.
I think in listening to your response, you described one person, how one person perceived that. My question is, you said that inner, what is it called? Oh, returning light was how I decided to interact with it. And I really don't care too much how I decided to interact with it as much as how did they together respond to this? Because how I responded internally is different than what another friend responded, how another friend responded to that same person speaking, and another friend. There were different responses, each depending on the person. I'm trying to see how all these responses come together, or to see which response was the best for advancement, and if I have to replace mine, to figure out that response, that interaction with this, in this situation.
Yeah, but you're doing it all inside of you. So you're hearing responses, right, through visual or audio. I hear you, and I'm taking it all into account. But I'm doing the work. So I'm taking what you're saying, and I'm relating it to myself. So I'm hearing your interpretations, and I'm saying, how can what am I meant to do with this? Am I meant to invert it? Am I meant to categorize it? How does this affect me? So I'm always, again, doing this idea of I'm listening to the environment. I'm hearing what you have to say. I care about what you have to say, and then I bring it back to me. It's always bring it back to me. So you've always got this idea, I go out, I hear you, and then I bring it back to me. And there's always this in and out motion. It's like breathing. You're breathing out and then breathing in. I'm breathing out, and I'm hearing someone say something in the workshop, and then I bring it back into me. And that's the motion we want to constantly do. We don't want to just stay in the friends and, the friends are awesome. We want to take the awesomeness of the friends and internalize it within us. And if each person does that, then we're all becoming awesome together. And it's this constant back and forth work of thinking of myself, thinking of others, but then bringing it back to thinking of myself, that the others are myself. So it's not just, I heard something from somebody else and now I'm going to think of myself. How can I take what others are saying and say, no, that is me? So I'm actually listening to myself the entire time, but I'm not listening to my body. I'm listening to other parts of me. It would be like, it would be like if I recorded myself 10 times and I played it back. And I'm like, look, 10 different people have just, said something. That was me. Those 10 versions of me, 10 expressions of me are talking to myself. And I need to constantly that's what it means to love the neighbor as yourself. You're taking somebody else and you're internalizing, you're eating them within you, and you're making them part of you. So you're actually listening to yourself. You want to get to that situation where I'm not listening to Maria, I'm listening to myself. Maria is an expression of myself, and I always want to bring that back in. And that's what it means to always bring it back into the God, into the essence of I.
That is helpful. Thank you.
Once we actually,
one of the things,
yeah, sorry, go for it.
No, one of the things I've realized on this path is that I'm realizing that everyone I perceive is actually a perception of myself. That I don't know anyone's real essence, but their actions you can see. But everything I think about someone or meet is actually a perception of myself, whether good or bad. It's like I walk into a room and say, oh, I know that person. How do I know that person? I can't possibly know that person, who that person is. So I'm actually projecting a perception of myself on that person. It's interesting. I just don't know where to go with it. I mean, I guess if we're all part of the Creator and His essence, then we all know each other in some way. Maybe that person is a reflection of myself, and then they're reflecting back on me, and I'm a reflection of them. In that case, I don't know even where to go with this, but I'm just saying I'm just seeing everyone as a reflection of myself at this point.
It's like throwing a stone in water, and it makes those waves, and they actually cover each other. There's like coverage between the waves. That's how we are. So on one hand, we're each a wave, but there's coverage between us. And that's precisely what we want to get. We want to get that coverage. And it doesn't mean if I say, oh, then we're all the Creator, and therefore I have to start, trusting everybody equally. And no, just like when we have our body, we treat it in different importances, and we have different relationships with the organs in our body. The same as we have to have relationship with the reality in front of us. It's all part of us. but it doesn't mean I have to start, treating everyone equally. Just like I treat humanity different from the way I treat the spiritual society, and I treat the spiritual society different from the way I treat the group, and the group different from the individuals. That's not inequality. It's equality in the sense of I'm treating everybody. How can I get the best experience from this? How can I advance the most? How can I empower myself? And the best way to empower myself is by empowering others. Because if I've successfully empowered somebody else, if I'm able to convey a concept to them and they've internalized it, that means that that concept was internalized within me because I was able to express it in a way that got internalized through somebody else. So we're always talking with ourselves. And even if someone gets angry at us, it's an expression of us being angry at ourselves. And therefore, there's no need. You still play with it, just like when you play with your body. So sometimes your body will react in a certain way, and you have to react differently. Sometimes you'll take a pill, sometimes you won't take a pill. Sometimes you'll rest, sometimes you'll go for a walk. We have to learn all these intricacies of basically knowing how to take care of ourselves and taking care of our real selves, which is everything, our entire reality.
It's like putting shoes on your feet to protect your feet. You don't put shoes on your hands to protect your hands. So, those are different parts of our body. So it's just different. All of the aspects out there are different parts of us, and we have to treat them differently, just like our parts of our body.
Exactly. If the hand said, hey, why don't I get shoes? It's like, you don't need shoes. Shoes would be terrible for you. Try eating the shoes. Have you ever tried eating with shoes? Terrible. And then the legs are like, well, if the hands doesn't need shoes, I don't need shoes either. Yeah? Start walking on a path and getting prickly things in your feet. So it's all about seeing our perception and understanding that we don't know how to interact with it correctly. And, I have this real life example of, I had a washing machine when I got married, and I didn't read the manual. So I pressed all the buttons of all the features because I wanted the best, wash. And I put in the clothes and I run it. And then halfway through, it stops. It just halted. And it wasn't continuing to move. It's like, we didn't understand what happened. We had to open the door forcefully. All the water came out. We had to pick up all the water. It was just a huge mess. This happened 3 times. Until finally I read the manual and it said, one of the buttons is to stop it at half the wash so that the clothes can soak. And then you press it again, and then it releases it and can continue. So it's like the problem wasn't the washing machine, and the problem wasn't me. The problem was I wasn't using the product correctly. I wasn't using what I was given. And the idea is that we're brought into this world and we don't read the manual. And we basically cause all this pain until we figure out, no, maybe we should actually read the manual and figure out how to deal with this reality correctly.
But it was your fault, wasn't it? You didn't read the manual. They gave you a manual.
But the idea is that by experiencing this whole situation, I can know the difference between reading the manual and not reading the manual. And that's the advantage that we have over animals. So animals have the manual built into them, and they don't have to learn anything. We are born into this world where we don't have the manual, and we have to search for the manual. It's not even given to us. It's not like we're born, here's the manual, there you go, read and enjoy life, Jeffrey.
I understand.
We have to search for it, and that whole searching makes it part of us, and it makes us aware. We have contrast. We know what it is to live without the manual, and we know what it is to live with the manual, and that contrast we can actually then give to others. An animal can't teach us human how to become whole with nature. That's the advantage we have as humans, that we can experience life without correction and with correction, and then we have actual awareness of that correction.
Thank you.
Well, isn't it already there? We just have to adjust our perception and realize that it's already there. We just have to figure out, reveal it to ourselves.
Exactly. That's what's called revelation. We're not creating anything. It's revealing to ourselves what is already there. It's just like with the washing machine. I just had to reveal the instructions. The machine was always working correctly. Once I revealed to myself how it works, then I was able to use it correctly. And the same is with our environment. If we learn how to use the environment correctly, then the environment is fine. Part of the problem is that when people come to the environment, they become part of it. So instead of using it, they see it as part of themselves, and then they start talking things that the society doesn't care about. They get angry with society. They just don't know how to interact with it correctly. You have to, on one hand, have that separation from the concept. So I am not the society. But at the other hand, to have that connection with society saying, yeah, but I can use the society. It's like if you're the hammer, you can't use the hammer. You have to be separate from the hammer to use the hammer. And the idea is we do this on every level. So just like with humanity, we can't use humanity correctly until we disconnect from humanity. And that's what the spiritual society gave us. And then we can't use the spiritual society correctly until we feel that we're part of the group. And then we can't use the group until we feel that we're an individual, using the group, using the society, using humanity to get that internal power.
So if we if we don't exist, if we cease to exist, and we are the creator, then does the creator cease to exist because we can't experience the creator? I mean, because we don't exist, what would our relationship be?
You know, when we think that we live in reality, we don't really live in reality. Reality lives in us. If I die, I don't actually know if this world continues without me. I have no clue. If my perception is dead, I can't actually attain that the world is continuing without me, because if I'm attaining the world is continuing without me, then I still have a perception. So if I'm dead and my perception dies, the world is dead. I don't know if I wrote a book and I released it into the world and then I die, I don't know. I have no awareness, or I can't attain that someone's reading my book after I'm dead. So the idea is that even the creator, which is our internal power, if we don't have perception of that, it doesn't exist either. The Kabbalists only talk about what they attain. They only talk about what is in their perception. And that's why when we internalize this concept, we start shifting. Instead of thinking that we're people living in reality, we understand reality is living within us. And then we can actually manage it and start manipulating it. Because as long as you're thinking you're in reality, then you're thinking there's only a maximum amount of effect I can do. Because I'm here in Israel, how could I possibly affect America? Yeah, I could do all social media stuff, but at the end I'm limited. But when I understand the reality is not outside of me, it's in me, that means anything I do within my internal power will immediately cascade into the world and I'll see changes. And that's the idea of that responsibility. We do have the ability to change the world, but not change it externally, change it internally, and then it will manifest externally accordingly.
Is that the extent of our free will?
So our free will starts when we understand we have no free will. It's like the problem with free will is it's a concept of an amorphous mass. It's something that it's free will, and no one can decide. I'm going to choose A or B. None of you could actually know ahead of time whether I'll choose A or B. And it is actually predetermined. But when you understand it's predetermined, that's when your free choice starts. Because when you understand that you're actually manipulated by laws, fixed laws, that's when you can start to manipulate the laws accordingly. It's like we only reach space because we found out about the law of gravity. But the law of gravity says we won't reach space. It's like, yeah, what you throw up will have to come down. So how can we reach space? Because when you learn about the law and you invert it, so you revert it from concealment, which is what I throw up, it must come down, and to revelation, then I can start actually to use it and manipulate it and say, no, I'm going to actually reach space because I found out about the law of gravity. So I couldn't have reached space without the law of gravity, without revealing that I'm under this certain law and this certain effect. I weren't able to reach my destination. So the idea of Kabbalah is we're learning more and more about these laws, and it sounds like, oh, it's limiting. Oh, why would I want freedom. I have emotion. No one can define how I feel. My emotion is unique. And how could a Kabbalist define this in any kind of words or system? It makes it so, where's the emotion? Where's the magic? It's like, well, the idea is if you want to do magic, you have to learn how it's done. The idea is that by us understanding that the more we learn these laws, the more we can manipulate, the more we can use them for our own advantage. It'd be like someone who didn't know about the law of gravity and would walking down the stairs and fall over. They'd be like, oh, it's probably because I didn't give, I wasn't nice to old people, or I didn't give my maser to the group, or, all different stuff like that. It's like, no, you should know that when you walk down the stairs, you have to be careful, and you have to know that there's law of gravity, and you've got to put, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And, and if you fall over, it's not because, you did something wrong. It's because you just weren't aware of the rules, and you have to know how to manipulate them accordingly.
Wow. So we have the ability to learn these laws and then manipulate them. So it sounds to me like we're going beyond our free will at this point. Because if my perception of predestination and free will is, for example, I was predestined to walk to see this homeless person. I was predestined to see this homeless person. Whether I help them or not is my free will. That's in my corporeal world. So what we're saying now is that these laws exist and we can manipulate them. So we're saying it goes beyond even the concept of anything that I even understand. So if I can manipulate these laws, then I'm actually exerting an amount of free will that eventually I have to pay the consequence, don't I, of this manipulation? I mean, if I do manipulate these things incorrectly, these laws. Is that clear?
Yes. The idea is that when we're saying, let's say I say, oh, I did something incorrectly, we're not talking about the actions, remember. The actions are the result of our intention. They're the result of our state, of our degree. It's like a kid acts like a kid because that's his degree. And he can't act like an adult. You know, when we say to kids act like adults, he's not an adult. You might have to lower down the concepts to a kid degree for him to understand it. But a kid can't act like an adult. And the idea is that, a person before the barrier cannot act like somebody after the barrier. But the idea is to want to grow to get to that state. And even when we're manipulating events, remember, we're always tied to the goal. So we're always thinking, what would the creator do? And we're trying to take that into our awareness. So instead of currently what happens is that the creator does everything in our lives, and it's all without awareness and without consciousness. The idea is to consciously do this stuff. And not just let it be done like automatically. We want to take that control into our awareness, into our perception. So the same things are still going to be happening, but we're going to have more awareness of it. It's like, it doesn't really matter if I thought something was going to happen and it happened, or if I didn't think something was going to happen and it happened. Thing happened. The idea is that if I have awareness of it, then I can prepare for it. It'll be a much more enjoyable experience, because instead of it looking like it's forced on me, I'm agreeing with it and I'm accepting it and I'm actually taking more control of it. I'm taking control of the situation. So even though you could say, well, it's just an illusion, Zakai, at the end of the day, the creator controls everything. But at the end of the day, all our feelings and emotions are based on the illusion. It's like many times, we're at work and we're stressed about something and everyone's like telling us, what are you stressed about? Nothing's actually wrong. What's wrong with you? And you're like, but I feel that something's wrong. And they're like, you with your problems and your phobias and stuff, like there's nothing wrong, stop with the nonsense. Like, but I feel my illusion is what matters. And if my illusion is that I have no control, I have to deal with that illusion and get that sense of control. So even though you say all the time, yeah, but the creator actually does everything. It's like, yes, but I need that illusion to align with what the creator is actually doing. I need to align that illusion, that dream, to reality.
Yeah, my situation is I have to engage with a lot of negative, what I call realities, and I'm like reacting rather than being proactive on it. I got like bullies, troublemakers, so on and so forth. And what do? I just try to ignore them, but I still have to deal with them. We're all like, everybody's got the essence of the creator, and we're all operating on a program of will to receive to various degrees. How come I'm getting all this? This is predetermined.
So the idea is to actually take the responsibility and understand that the only reason why things are happening in our life is because we're actually inviting it into our life. It's the law of attraction. Anyone who's seen The Secret, they've got the right concept. They divert it to physical things of, want more money or want more knowledge, or they don't talk about the concept of actually having internal power, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, this is emotional that I'm getting.
Exactly. So the idea is that you're inviting that into your life. So the idea is that, when I was a kid, I got beat up at school because I wanted subconsciously for people to beat me up because then I existed. And it was easier for me to basically have a big L on my forehead saying loser. And then people were beating me up. And I, of course, consciously were thinking, why are they beating me up? I would go crying, to home, to my parents. and people wouldn't understand why they're picking on me. But subconsciously, I was inviting all that pain and frustration because it made me feel that I exist. And it's like they say, there's no such thing as bad publicity. There's only publicity. And we'll see many times that people are attacked. They want to be attacked. And the idea of taking responsibility of that is understanding the only reason anything is happening to me is because I want it to happen to me. And because I'm not aware of that, I need to slowly stop being aware that I'm inviting all this tension into my life. And one, think, well, maybe that tension is good for me. Maybe, because no tension, no power. So the idea is to convert that tension into power. But if that tension is too much, the idea is to know how to actually reduce it and how to delay it and know how to manipulate it accordingly. So it's funny because we think of the control thing of absolute, like if I'm controlling you, then you can't control me. Or if you're controlling me, I can't control you. But we're talking about a spiritual concept here. So the idea is that it's power gauges, it's levels of control. So if I'm controlling you with, let's say, 50 amps of power, and you're controlling me with 50 amps of power, then we've equalized. And then we can both do what we want, and the system will allow both our dreams to come true accordingly. But the idea is that at the moment we're with such low power levels that even if the system wanted to give us what we wanted, we wouldn't have the vessel stable to contain it. It's like someone who wins the lottery, that's mostly a bad thing because they get all that money at once and they don't know how to deal with it. No one's given them accounting. And it's the same thing when someone becomes a celebrity. Like, 15 minutes of fame, that can sometimes kill a person with tension. He doesn't know how to deal with it. If it's a gradual growth, you'll see that people can handle it much more and more and more. And we might suddenly hear it in the news like that, but for them, it's been growth of multiple years of working as, let's say, an entrepreneur, and he's building a company and he's growing it. We hear it as, oh, he's just now rich. But that was growth. It was growth there. So also with the internal power, we want that growth. We don't want to suddenly be now in an end of correction. That we haven't. We want to grow slowly our perception in the speed that we can handle it. And we can only handle it in the connection we would do in the environment, because the environment provides us that support. When someone's attacking you, you basically fall on your friends. Your friends come to help you understand, is the other person correct or incorrect? Maybe he's got a point. Maybe he doesn't have a point. Is he fighting with himself? Is he actually fighting with you? Do you have to actually do with it something or not? It's very important for us to build that environment around us, because that's what will enable us to get those left lines and actually advance, because the advancement is in the left line. What normally happens is we don't build the right environment around us, and then when we have that left line, it breaks us. And that's called breaking of the vessels, when you don't have enough support in the vessel to deal with that tension of the light, because light is tension. Like, think of it, you're pouring light into a vessel that provides a lot of tension onto that vessel. So you need the vessel to be padded internally, right, which is the concepts you've internalized, and externally, which is the environment that you have. And you need that double protection of the internal of the vessel and the external of the vessel to be able to handle more light inside your vessel.
How about, though, you say we're inviting, but that's from like the subconscious, because as a child, you don't know what you're doing consciously, or like the people in the war zone, like Syria, right? You're sitting around in your living room and barrel bombs are coming down and so on and so forth.
Right, it's all in our subconscious. The idea is, it sounds sometimes weird because it's like, wait a second, if it's me, that means, I did this to myself. Yeah, but then you can actually change it. Like, once you're aware that you have the responsibility, then you can do something with it. And that's what it means to make the world a better place, by giving more and more people that responsibility and giving them the tools to actually handle that responsibility. So it's not just by saying to someone, Jeffrey, you're responsible, and that's it, and just leaving you like that hanging. It's saying you're responsible and giving the tools to handle that responsibility, giving you the environment to handle that responsibility, giving you the support, giving you the method, giving you the knowledge to deal with that responsibility. It's like, when you see these superhero movies, a lot of the time at the beginning is for them to figure out how to actually even use their powers. You're Spider-Man, you can like shoot webs from your hands. It's like, yeah, but you're not going to shoot everywhere. You have to learn how to control this power and when to use it and when not to use it. And it's not just he had it and then he was able to jump from building to building. It requires experience with this power to know how to use it correctly. And this,
incremental.
Exactly. And we do this together. We clean concepts together, and we're not alone. We have a tendency to think, oh, we're alone on this path, and we're just physically mingling with people. We're not alone. The idea is that we're going to reach this adhesion of perception where we all have the same perception, and we can't do that if we don't start sharing with each other. our perceptions. But the idea is we're not sharing the experiences. The experience will be different. The things you will experience will be totally different from the way I experience things. But the perceptions, the eternal discernments, like we talked last time, are exactly what we need to share with each other, because we'll always find a way to apply them onto our perception as well.
You mentioned, the example when you were a kid that sometimes you got beat up. When you realized that or brought it from your subconscious to your conscious, how much of it was dealt externally, if any, and how much of it was dealt internally?
So when they stopped beating me up, it was still all unconscious. So I had no clue that, they were beating me up and therefore I have to change my perception. It was all, it was all behind the scenes. And like, a few years ago when, before I started in Kabbalah, I was being attacked on all sides. I was having problems with my family and problems with work, and my body started breaking down on me. I had like a hernia. And I just finished dealing with an ulcer, a peptic ulcer, and Kabbalah actually helped me change and get a conscious control of it. When I came into the group 2 years ago, a month after being in the group, I stopped. I was taking Cipralex. I was taking against sort of OCD, and I just stopped it. And the group gave me that right line. They took me out of those repetitive thoughts and were just allowing me to sort of spread myself over the group. And as I've continued internalizing the method of Kabbalah, life is really improved. My situation with my family is improved immensely. And the situation with work, immense changes, just like 180. But this is already conscious in me. And therefore I'm aware of it, and I can actually share with others. I can tell them, look, this is what happened to me. You can go through this as well. Yes, Shelley?
I used to teach at-risk kids, and they were violent, and they used to curse at me. And when I showed that I was not fearful of them, and I agreed with them on their name calling, they stopped. And I'm referring this to Jeffrey because he was saying he was dealing with, bullies and emotional abuse. And when you confront these aspects of others, which is actually yourself, you empower them, and that bullying stops. And I learned this from working with at-risk kids.
Thank you. Yeah, I tend to push back, because I'm not a small guy. And it's just a drag.
But the idea is it's not the action. So it's like we normally think, if someone's attacking me, I have to attack them externally, and that will solve the problem. You're just going to continue inviting that into your life. So you're constantly just pushing back externally. But internally, you're like saying, bring more, bring more, bring more. It's like, having a flood and you're like trying to, cover the holes in the wall. Like it's not going to work. In the end, it's going to totally overpower you. And the idea
I have to break the chain.
Exactly. When you do the change internally, discern, why am I inviting this? What is the root cause for all this happening to me? And then when you do that click, when you do that change.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out yet.
It takes time. And the idea is to accept that it takes time. So it's not like, tomorrow we're all the creator and, and that's it. It's a gradual growth, and we have to accept our growth. And some people will advance faster, and some people will advance slower, and we have to accept that, and we have to support that. So we have a tendency to think, if we're in equality in a group, everyone's equal, so therefore we all have to advance at the same speed. It's like, so what speed do you find by? Do you go by the slowest in the group? That's not fair. Do you go by the fastest in the group? No one will be able to handle that pressure. You have to allow people to grow differently. Some person will grow, 1 degree a year. The other person will grow 1 degree a month, and the other person will grow 1 degree a week. And we have to enable this. We have to stop thinking that we have to be internally equal, but understand that we're externally equal. The equality that's happening today is external, and that's the way it should be. We're having the same rights externally. We're having the same physical rights. We can all choose who our president or our minister will be. Doesn't matter if we're smart or stupid. So we have the external equality. Now is the time for us to allow internal inequality, because the idea is that we're going to reach equality in our future. The equality is at the end of correction, not where we are now. If we would reach equality where we are now, we would have no internal power, because the minute someone wants to advance faster than anybody else, we're like, whoa, 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 who do you think you are? You're meant to advance with us. We're all trying to advance, together. Why are you advancing faster? But we know when, a fetus is growing in the mother, the fetus grows the parts in different orders and different priorities. So, the brain will grow before the legs. And you can't have the legs saying to the brain, whoa, 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 whoa. There's equality, we have to grow with the same speed and the same work. And it's like, no, there's different orders. And the idea is that we don't have to force the orders. The system will do those orders for us. So if someone actually does advance at a certain speed, that's the speed he needs to advance. If someone else advances slower, that's the speed he needs to go. And we have to allow an environment to allow each person to grow in the speed they want. And if someone feels, oh, I'm not growing in the speed I want, then he can say, help me, clean my concepts more. I'm more passive, so it's harder for me to desire to clean my concepts. So come help me. And that's where we give each other, we help each other with our left lines and right lines. We'll have people which are more active. It's like, oh, the group has to advance, and why is it not advancing? And then you have the people which are more passive, like, oh, let everybody advance at their own pace. And by intermingling with each other, we give each other the opposite line. So the right line people get the left line, and the left line people get the right line.
Thank you.
That guy.
Yes.
It would seem, and correct me if I'm wrong, that bestowal, is it giving people what they need or what they want? And after you answer that, I have a follow-up based on your answer.
But I'd say it's a combination of both. You have to encapsulate what they need as what they want. So you've got a capitalist coming and saying, oh, what you need is to bestow. And we all need to bestow to each other, and that's what you need to do. And then no one hears it. And then you say to people what they want. It's like, oh, you want filling, and here, this is how you get filling. What you need to do is combine the two. You need to say to someone, how do you gain power? And how is this bestowal actually power for you? And so you're taking the concept of bestowal, and it's normally like talked as like this most loving concept of, oh, we're going to bestow to each other and love each other. And you bring it down to the ego and you say, look, this is what's going to help you. This is the reward you're going to get. And this is why you should work on this path. And then the ego says, well, that sounds great. Let me go try it. We have to constantly, we see this with kids. It's the whole concept of putting sugar on a pill, right? So you've got the pills, what you need. What you need is a pill. Take this. And then you've got the other parents like, oh, but all he wants is sugar, so you just give him sugar. It's like you need the sugar on the pill. You coat externally to the person to give him what he thinks he wants, but internally it's what he really wants. It's like you're giving that, you're poisoning him with this desire for internal power, but you're sugarcoating it with this, oh, it will actually give you filling and it'll make your life better. And it does make your life better, but you have to externally give it the most egoistic way, so that when he grows, then his ego will grow and he'll be like, well, it's not satisfying just for me to just give to myself. I want to give to my entire reality, because now I've bought the entire reality. The entire reality is mine now. So I wouldn't just take off my body. I've got to take care of all my buildings and all the people around me, and they're mine as well. I've bought them all in my perception.
So follow up to that would be then a Kabbalist must develop the senses to be able to perceive from that person's view and not their own view. You were talking before about I see things as my perception. I can't know what they perceive, but that's what you need to do if you're going to be a Kabbalist.
So the idea is to know that you're not going to actually succeed before the end of correction, actually able to go into somebody else's perception. So at the end of the day, when you're understanding other people's perception, you're actually understanding yourself, and you're not actually living. I can't actually, suddenly switch and shift to your perception and watch me talking to you. I can't do that. So even when I'm thinking of what Alan is thinking, I'm thinking it still through my own perception. And I can't actually switch the camera and be now where you're looking for me and looking at myself saying, oh, yeah, it's that guy. Yeah. Nice bookcase. I can't do that. I can only do that because I'm looking at my own, reflection in a meeting. So the idea is that before the end of correction, we can't go into other people's perception. That's what the stony heart is. The stony heart is what separates our perceptions. That's why we don't touch it until the end of correction, because until we've maximized our perception, until we've made it at the maximum power, only after everyone's actually connected to that root, then we can start removing these tubes, these containers stopping us from entering each other's perception. So we're going to have this full connection to our root. We still have this full connection to reality through our senses. And then with that power in between, then we can start removing the tubes between our perceptions, and then we can actually equalize. And that's after the end of correction.
Is stony heart like, in the Torah, and I think it's in Book of Genesis, talk about stiff neck? Is it the equivalent to somebody with stiff neck? I've never understood that concept. Would that be like stony heart?
So you could say it's stiff. So it's not the stony heart. So the stony heart is what stops our perceptions from intermingling, right? So it's like, when you go to a supermarket and you see one screen that has multiple camera views. So the person in the supermarket can actually see what's happening from multiple places in the supermarket. Think of each of us being one camera. And then the idea is that when you correct the stony heart, then we can actually start seeing that one screen with all the cameras. So it's not like I have to switch, okay, how is Rick seeing this session? Or how is Jeffrey seeing this session? I will, at the same time, be experiencing reality from me, from Rick, from Jeffrey, from Peter, and so on, at the same time. And it's not actually written anywhere because no one's actually attained this. But this is the direction we're going. We're going to, just like we all share the same reality, we're going to all share the same perception.
If we are the essence of the creator, it's almost like then the next piece of this puzzle is, why do we have to go through all this? At which point, is this decided? So I would think that, if the creator, all present, all knowing, all powerful, all good, once you know everything, the beginning and end of everything, you're the creator. Did the creator get bored and create us just so that to entertaining, the creator? It's for the creator's own pleasure to watch us, go through these corrections so that we can reunite with ourself, which is the creator. I mean, it almost is like some cosmic joke. It's like God has a sense of humor, and we're the punchline, so to speak.
Well, the idea is that, the Kabbalists write that the reason why the worlds were created was because the creator is this immense power and it wants to express itself. It's like an artist has a need to express his power, express his talent. So all the reality we're seeing around us is this immense desire to express his power accordingly. And with that power, remember, there's not us and the creator. We're one. And the idea is it's like the creator made a movie, put himself as each character in the movie, but didn't actually tell each one that they're actually an actor. So they're all doing exactly what's written in the script, but they have no awareness that they're actually an actor. And we'll see sometimes in movies where the actor is also the director. So you're watching the entire movie, and the only thing is the actor. And then at the end it says, director and the actor's name. And you're like, wait a second, so he was the director and the actor at the same time? He was looking at himself, doing the role, and playing the role at the same time. And that's what we need to do. We need to be also an actor in the movie, so we're acting in this movie, and at the same time being the director and looking at it from the side and saying, nice shot, maybe we should move it to the left a bit, and maybe we should in the next shot do it this little to the right. So it's again, this concept, and it takes us time to start internalizing there's only one force, and there's not multiple forces. There's one force, and it's expressed in multiple ways, and we have to bring it back to the source. And that's the idea of one, unique, and unified. So there's one force. It's unique in that it has multiple expressions, and each expression is totally unique. And then we do the unification at the end of bringing it from that unique into the one. And again, it's that concept of we start from the middle, the eye, we go out to the environment, and then we come back into the I, and we constantly have to do that movement.
So if it's a script, then it's really predestined. So if you think about that, we're actors in this predestined film, let's say. So when you say that, as a child, you had this experience where you were getting beaten up, but you came out and your subconscious, if you're pulling out of your subconscious, were you really pulling out of your subconscious, or was it predestined by the creator for you to go through this experience to give you, to notice to be aware of deficiencies so you can get discernments as a result and progress spiritually? I mean, which was it? When you say it was from your subconscious, what do you actually mean if it's like a film?
Well, it's both. So when the creator predetermined it, he predetermined it by making my subconscious doing what it does. So the idea is that, you go from the creator to our intention, through our desires, subconscious, consciousness, thoughts, emotions, speech, action, reality. And that's the way the creator expresses through each of us. So he's going through that tunnel for each and every one of us. Those are the vessels it goes through, right? All the way from Keter all the way to Malchut. So the Keter represents the internal power, and the Malchut represents reality. And it's going through those pipelines the whole entire time. So the idea is that if we raise ourselves to Bina, which is discernments, right? We're raising ourselves to our intention, basically. And we do the correction there, then we are not only just being living the experience, but we actually have awareness of the experience as well. And we're connected to our root. We have adhesion with the root, and we understand why he's doing what he's doing, and we can actually join him in let me do this, tell me what to do and let me do this as well. Like when a kid wants to become like a father, he wants to not just only just learn what to do, but he wants to learn why you do it, so then he can do it the next time by himself. And he doesn't need you it's like, no, daddy, I'll do it by myself. And that's what we want to do. We want to say, no, creator, let me do, give me the illusion, give me the feeling that I'm doing it by myself. And we see with kids, we give them that illusion. They're not actually, having total independence. We give them the illusion of independence, and then it makes them feel like it's their own. And that's the idea of that ownership. The illusion of ownership is very important, especially if that illusion actually grows us.
That's why we have this relationship with our children, like the creator has with us, like his children. And we watch this unfolding in our lives with our children. So it makes us to realize what the creator's role is in our life, because we have that same relationship.
Exactly. There's the article, I think it's 62, of Son and Slaves, where we want to be the son, we want to become the father, we want to become the creator, and we have to learn the intricacies of how he works in order to become one with him. And actually, if someone says, oh, it's terrible, look what's happening in reality, and you're like, no, actually it's great. It's not just, oh, the creator's behind everything. This is sort of blanket statement. You need details in that statement. I understand why the creator's doing it because of A, B, and C. He wants to bring us to a certain direction, to a certain target, and this is the way he's going to do it. And we need those details. We want to learn the instruction manual of our life. And that's what Kabbalah is all about.
How do we understand the idea that the light act upon us in the group, when in the connection, when we think that we are the creator, or the creator is an infant state of us?
So the idea is that we have a future state, a higher perception that we want to attract to ourselves. So we want to be in this higher perception. We don't know what it is, because if we knew what it was, then we would be there. And we use the group as a place to gain those discernments and gain those emotional bond with the members, and internalize that group within. So Rav always talks about the concept of the group is an internal concept. So you could have someone who's in 50 groups externally, and he's in 0 groups internally. He hasn't internalized any of them. He's just always kept them external and always kept that separation between himself and them. The idea is to bring those groups and internalize within. So you can have one person who has one group, and you can have someone who has 50 groups, and the one who has one group hasn't internalized that concept. He has that group inside of him, and he's taken what people have said and not just said, oh, they're saying stuff, and that's very nice, and the light will reform. He's actually listened to what they say and contemplating and thinking and trying to emotionally bond with what they're saying. And that's that internalization within. And that's where the light can reform us. The light reforming us is basically advertising our future state to us, because we don't actually want to be in our future state. Because if we wanted to, we'd be there. So the only reason we're not in our high level of perception is because we don't actually want to be in that high level of perception. And that's why we need the environment. Because if it was just a question of like, oh, I want to be in my higher level of perception, there you go, I'm there. I wouldn't need the environment. The whole reason that we need the environment is precisely because we don't want to advance. And then the group becomes like a contrary. It becomes a resistance to our resistance not wanting to advance. And they sort of like cancel out each other, and then we can actually advance to our next degree. I don't know if that answers your question. It is very important to understand what we're going to the group for. We're not actually just like, oh, I'll just connect with the group and some magical, reforming light will come and save us. It's much more, if it was only about that, we wouldn't have to know about all the structure. And there wouldn't be all the structure if it was just some magical light that reforms us. The idea is that there is structure to it. There is a precise method of how to actually use the group correctly. And Rav constantly tries to explain that to us, how to use the group correctly. That is, we're going to the group. So it's not that somebody else is going to the group, like, oh, I don't have to do it. Somebody else can do it for me. And the idea is that the group is advancing. That's the nice thing. You go into the group, you're investing in the group. When you're in a workshop, you're constantly switching between thinking of yourself because you have to talk and thinking of others because they're talking. And then you again have to think of yourself. So you're constantly doing this motion of breathing in, breathing out with the group. I really feel that this first article is a very important concept, and it's why I studied system concepts with it, because all the problems always come to this concept. It always falls back on the idea of, you stop blaming someone because you don't understand that we are the creator. You could say all the discernments are to discern this discernment. All the discernments are to deal with this concept of how do I internalize this concept of that I'm the creator, that I'm in control. And how do I use the reality that I've given to myself and use it correctly? I bought a pair of knives. I need to use those knives. If I've bought a pair of knives, I should use them. So if I've given to myself this reality in front of me, I should know how to use it correctly because I gave it to myself in order to actually allow me to advance.
Yeah, this is the most important concept, a good foundation to build it all on. This would be there is none else besides him, right? Pretty much the same thing, except that, you're making it very clear that it's internal, not external.
Right, there's no one else besides the internal power within me. And there's no one else besides him. And we tend to think of there's no one else besides him as there's me, and there's him, and there's no one else besides him. He decides what I do. It's like, no, there's no one else besides the internal power within me. When we're talking about him, we're talking about our internal power. And the more we understand it, internalize that concept that it's not external and it is internal, and that's how we grow.
Well, people think of God as a sentient being. I've seen him described as a spirit being. Of course, this is all like external, but even if it's internal, is it sentient? This force? It's aware, self-aware.
It's self-aware through us. So we're self-aware. I saw this video online of animals watching themselves for the first time in a mirror, and you see the response. And animals don't have this. We have you can see even today we're so much more aware of ourselves. Think of a selfie. A selfie is a high awareness of self. It used to be that when you took a picture, it was to take a picture of an experience. And in that experience were people and normally like a background and of some sort. A selfie is all about me. Most of the time in the selfie, you can't even see the experience. You can't even see the people. You can't even see where they are. It's just like, look at me. This is me in this experience. And you're looking at yourself from yourself, because even when you're taking a selfie, you're seeing your reflection. You're seeing a mirror of yourself. So every time you're taking a selfie, you're like, look how I look now. Look how I look now. Look how I look now. And today, yes, it's expressed in the most external form. right? So that's why it's very superficial, and it doesn't matter, my internal power. It's all about how I look externally. But this is a prerequisite for doing the same thing internally with our internal power of constantly doing an internal selfie. How do I look now? How do I look now? How do I look now? But not externally. I'm looking at myself internally. So we have to be like a self-absorbed teen, but corrected.
Right.
So a normal self-absorbed teen is looking at himself externally. Look how I look at my makeup, look at, look at this, and look at the camera.
It's a good indicator of the massiveness of the ego that's out there now, though. Like you said, the ego's been growing and growing.
Exactly, and the idea is to use that and internalize that power. So instead of doing an external selfie, using that same desire and internalizing and doing an internal selfie. So the idea is every single concept that we see in this world that is normally looked down as a negative thing is even more powerful when it's internal. So hate externally, right? If you internalize it, it becomes actually a fire to actually make you move forward. It actually, it's envy. It's corrected envy, where it makes you want to reach that degree, not tear the other person down, that if the other person doesn't exist, my life will be better. It's like, I want to reach that level. I want to grow to that degree. And that's why we read Kabbalistic books to awaken in themselves that enviness of, how he was in that high perception. I want to be there as well. And then I'm using the Kabbalist to become like him.
What about Isaac? 100 laughter. Where does laughter come in for our journey? Because that's pretty huge. And I can usually find an inappropriate time to bring laughter in, but I'm trying not to.
It's very funny, when you have the story of, Israel leaving Egypt. And think of, imagine the reporters coming to them and saying, so what do you think? So, you've got the story of, when we went to the moon, it's like one big step for man, a nice, good sentence of, powering, and one big step for man, another big step for man. So it's like, what do you think? And they complain. They're like, there wasn't enough burial sites in Egypt that you had to bring us out to the desert to die. So we see two things from this. One, we love to, what's the word? It's not comedy. It's like sarcasm. We love sarcasm. It's very sarcastic, right? We're like, what? There's not enough places for you to bury us in Egypt that you brought us here to die? And there's also that self-awareness. So when you're doing sarcasm, think about it. You're talking about a situation and you're turning it into comedy. And that's a higher state of awareness as well. We'll normally see that comedians are normally very troubled people. They're normally in a lot of depression precisely because they have a lot of self-awareness and self-scrutiny. And then they sort of try to lighten it by using comedy. And we'll do that a lot. We'll see situations where the creator does terrible things and we'll make fun of the situation or light of the situation in order to be able to cope with it better. We can see that that's the concept of laughing at situations. So you'll go through this terrible situation and you laugh at it. And you say, oh, wasn't that so bad after all? And so Kabbalists are very frivolous externally, but they're very serious internally. And you'll see many people that they're opposite. So when it comes to cleaning their concepts, they're very frivolous. But when it comes to keeping the rules of the workshop or keeping the rules in the society, there's we can't budge a mile. We can't even budge a centimeter. It's like, no, it's the Rav said, and we have to do this exactly the way he said it. But then you're like, so should we clean the concepts? Like, no, everyone has their path, thank you. I'll find out Bristol when I pass the barrier. It's like, you can't reach it if you don't start to try to understand where you're going towards. So the idea is that Kabbalists make many jokes. And it's funny, when you read, let's say, Baal HaSulam writings or Rabash or Rav Lightman, there's so many times where they it's not attack, it's like they jab. They jab all the time. So they'll say and only a serious person would probably ask himself now, da, 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 da. And you're like, but wait a second, no one asks that. So you're saying everybody's not serious. And if you start to understand that Kabbalists are very, because they're emotional, they're very, they have a lot of wit. And they they encode it. We think, oh, they're just lovely people who just want to help. There's so much devious jabs in their writings, and when you start reading it, you actually get to enjoy it. You're like, wait a second, he just said that we're all idiots. And you're reading it on first level, and you're like, oh, you see, he cares about us. Like, he just said you're all idiots, and he's just saying, I know better, and here's what you should actually be thinking. And it's like, it sounds egoistic. It's like, oh, he can't be egoistic. It's like, he's the most egoistic. He thinks he's the creator, for crying out loud. What's more egoistic than that? And when you start looking at the writings that way, you'll start to appreciate those jabs much more.
I saw something interesting today. I didn't read the article, but it's about that Russell Brand. He's a real firebrand kind of guy in England, a young iconoclast. But he's saying, I'm going to be the new Gandhi, which means I'm going to be massively narcissistic and egotistic, And this is what you're saying, too, is, we need these giant overgrown egos. I guess internally, right?
Exactly.
But he's going to be doing it externally. You know who I mean? This Russell Brand. He's like a in England.
I've been dealing more with like Donald Trump. That's a left-line person all the way. And think of that amount of power internally. But that's what we want to get. These people are external examples.
That's a good analog. Be Donald Trump inside.
Exactly. Just be ferociously internal. And external, be nice and accepting and allowing people to advance in the speed they want. But internally, be like ferocious, like, I'm going to reach this whether you're coming with me or not. Any final comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Great lesson.
Hey, thank you, guys. I really enjoy this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Yep, that was